talked about in the past, so Veolia will just continue to work on the compressed air systems at the treatment facility to finish that project up. Come along quite well. It's gonna be a great improvement project to our treatment facility, and then we're gonna move right into the next, just keep moving into the next items. I think what's nice about working with Veolia, and we have our own staff that's qualified, they have capabilities as well, but they work well together, trying to work on improving the water treatment facility from, like I've mentioned before, from the beginning on where water enters the facility all the way to the end, just upgrading everything so that we continue to stay on top of things. Using our forces in-house to do the work. Distribution system, so we had a couple leaks through the cold spell we had. I just wanted to report on that. Both were repaired by our own staff and resources with the assistance from Highway. Meter bid is out to, the install is out. I'm hoping to have a recommendation for you for the next meeting in March so we can begin that. That is using the American Rescue money. So there's a deadline that project has to be finished. We have it out that they must be finished by October so that we have everything invoiced and ready for deadline, which is in December. Provided you a couple of things. Wastewater treatment facility, I provided you trends for the month. Everything is winter conditions, so our flows are low. But I wanted to report to you, there's a few reports that I've been working on, as you know. We have a wastewater system climate resiliency plan that has to be submitted to the Rhode Island DEM as a condition of our discharge permit. I have not provided that to you. This is something we're reviewing and just received it. We have basically a report to the DEM on any of our assets, wastewater assets, way to climate change, sea level rise, excessive rains, that sort of. As most of our assets are in good shape, looking at they modeled, we had our future model that URI created, that all of DEM and all of the facilities, wastewater facilities, they provided that report to us in 2010. What we're doing this report is looking at that more closely on what impacts they are and plan on how to take that. So, for instance, if there's something that has a life cycle of 20 years, they look at, in 20 years, sea level projections, the flooding projections, storm projections for that asset. And we have 4 pump stations, as you know. We have a couple that are in harm's way, Maple Avenue being one of those. So, in the improvement project that we're working on, we'll have to address some of their concerns. Most of it's controls that they're out of harm's way at that pump station. Just giving you an example. The wastewater facility itself is out of harm's way. Access, that's one. They're concerned with how we there's other ways to get around besides Free Body Drive. And then there's the collecting system. There's one segment that is in to flooding, sure, Scandius Avenue. So that's something long range planning on how we're going to meet. So that's what we're looking at in this plan. Then we have a facilities plan update. So 20 years ago, town embarked on a major facility update. Basically identified a plan, 20-year plan of improvements that were necessary. Out of that came bonding, the 2000s, wastewater plant, pump stations, collection. As you know, we've been working on that. We did an asset review of all of our facilities, and we've been working on plans to upgrade that. So this facilities plan is basically taking everything that we've been working on, the pump stations, wastewater and collection system, those three projects, and basically packaging it and then giving it to the DEM on what we're going to be doing to keep our wastewater infrastructure working well, and that this basically outlines a plan. So I'm hoping to have this for you so you can see it. Some of these things are not new, but it does show you the need that is gonna be, unfortunately, it's gonna be costly. As you know, I've reported to you that the first project is 16 million, that we know about, and then there's future work. As things get older, we are to continue working on. And then there's one more thing I'm working on as well. This is the Clean Water Infrastructure Replacement Plan. I just received this too. So this goes to the Department of Health for water, and it's a 20-year plan. And in here, a lot of routine things we're working on, but some of the things that we'll be reporting to them is the costly items are the water main work, Narragansett Avenue and North Road. That's the $5 million we're estimating that to be. And then there's future work that's gonna be required for lead line replacement. So we have yet to determine the exact number, but we will be required to come up with a plan on how we address service lines that may contain lead, which is steel lines. So that's in here as well. And then the dam, South Pond Dam. So those are the major projects that once I have reviewed this, I'll provide this to you so you can see. We can talk about that as well. So those are the three plans that are that are required to go to our regulators, DEM and Department of Health. I just wanted to report that to you, that I have them in draft form, and that I'll be providing copies once I get through. Okay. And that's it for my report. I don't know if you have any specific questions about.
Well, I just wanted, I was witness to you and to Mark and to Jim repairing the line on Melrose Avenue in the freezing cold. And I just wanted to thank you and all three of you, and I really appreciate it. I mean, it's just with no interruption for us, at least as far as I knew, and at least as far as I experienced, and I just
No,
appreciate
they
it.
do a good job, Mark, and all of the guys to
Yeah.
get the work done.
In that instance, you were stretched and Ken Gladding stepped in and helped, I guess.
Oh, it was right during a snowstorm. We've had a few of those over the years. It's just the last thing you wanna see in the morning if you're trying to deal with snow and
Yeah.
find a leak.
About
So
2 weeks,
Saturday, yeah, it's
2 weeks
yeah.
ago, I think it was about
That
2 weeks ago,
weekend.
the first big storm.
Yeah, they get it done though.
Thank you
Yeah.
very much and thank them.
Yeah, they do a good job. So I don't know if you wanna get into, I'm standing here, if you wanna get into your rules.
So I talked to Mike a little bit before, and I have some troubles, as you know. I mean, I think our rules just really need to be, well, let me explain what inspired this a little bit, and I know you're ready to shoot me, and you can take me out of my misery, but it might make life a little
Let's
harder.
get it right the first time.
Yeah,
Let's get it
but
right.
I think I got it, in the paper a couple of weeks ago, there was an article about school spending and stuff like that, and it said that, talked about that, Jamestown faces serious monetary challenges in the near and long term, funding for the fire department and desperately needed upgrades to water and sewer infrastructure. And this was as a reason for explaining why the school budget should be reduced, and it's from a pretty smart fellow, and I just realized that people don't understand that, the separation of water and sewer infrastructure from taxpayers, from what the responsibility of taxpayers, and I think that's one thing where I think we really need to make that clear, that it's the 1,575 accounts that pay for what you have just outlined to us needs to get done. And it's not the taxpayers. And so I think we need to make that clear as a preamble to our rules, and then I think I think the rules need to be as clear. I think the rules, specifically the rules that you've developed are clear and much clearer certainly than they were. I'm just talking really about the introduction and the preamble. And I think that, so that not just those subject to the rules, but to those, the reasons, they need to be well supported, so that people have faith in them. And not only just the folks subject to them, but also those who may question why they aren't among those subject to them. Or in the case of this letter writer, who are confused about who's supporting what. So I just want to focus a little bit, so I'd like us, if you don't mind, to postpone our sending this to a public hearing, our advertising and sending it to a public hearing till our next meeting, which is our water and sewer meeting for March, and then we can advertise. And I'll try to have for you a kind of, work with Mike and to try to create a draft that I think kind of is a little bit stronger in this regard.
Right.
Thank you very much.
But there's no comment to the actual rules and,
No, it's again, I have had, in our discussion so far, we've talked about the preamble and we threw out a lot of different stuff that was in there. And I think just it's really about the preamble and the introduction and just trying to give people an understanding of the breadth of this water system, of its history, of its, and I mean, you've talked a little bit about the sewer system right now today, but the breadth of water and where it came from and what the dilemmas are. So that's what we're thinking.
okay.
Oh, I think so. Mary, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I'm not.
Okay, so here it is.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so you're. Yeah. Thanks, Mike. All right. So that brings us to the consent agenda for the, for our sewer.
Move to approve the consent agenda for water and sewer.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. Now I'll entertain a motion to adjourn from sitting as the Board of Water and Sewer Commissioners.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye, thank you. Brings us to our regular meeting in open forum. Is there anyone that would like to speak? We have a few more people in the room now. No? Okay. Then we'll move on to acknowledgements, announcements, and we have some special visitors this evening. So would you like to come on out? This is Senator Oyer and Representative Finkelman. And they're going to talk a little bit about 2026 legislative priorities. Welcome. Nice to see you both.
Nice to see everyone. So really, we come here every year and we're happy to share what we're working on. It's also good for you to give us feedback of the priorities of the town council, and if there's anything you'd like to see happen. So if you'd like to start. All right, fair enough. So the priority of the House of Representatives is always going to be our budget, right? We've had a couple tough years of balancing the budget. It will be another tough year of balancing the budget. We went into the year with several $100 million deficit. While it's closed a little bit based on our revenue projections, it's still quite large. So that'll be our number one goal moving into the year. Myself personally, I have a handful of different legislation that I'm working on as the prime sponsor. Some of it's been in the Jamestown Press. My top priority has been trying to reduce the cost of insurance across the state of Rhode Island. Jamestown has a real challenge with insurance. Our homeowners insurance has gone up exponentially over the last 5 years. Markets have pulled out of Rhode Island over the last 5 years. So the crux of my legislation has been to try and find ways to bring insurance carriers into the state, as well as lower the cost for the ones that are there. Some other items I have, energy costs, right? Our energy costs are extremely high. So recently I introduced legislation to help with reimbursement rates from the federal government to Rhode Island Energy to offset some of our cost increases. A number of years ago, before I was elected, the state legislature passed a law thinking that the DOT budget would be increased by taking the reimbursement from Rhode Island Energy, who's the national grid then, and give it to the DOT. It did not work out that way. So I recently introduced legislation to reverse that So the federal money comes to Rhode Island, stays in Rhode Island, and offsets the cost of the ratepayer. I have several other pieces of legislation, one being the improvement of the 401k plans. Small businesses have trouble, there's a high cost to set up a 401k plan in the state of Rhode Island. So I recently introduced legislation to provide tax credits to small businesses when they start up a new 401k plan. It's important for people to save and save from a young age early on, get that exponential growth. So that's a piece of legislation I have recently introduced. There's a handful more, but those are some of the ones that I figured I'd share with you today. Before I turn it over to my colleague, Senator Hoyer, I did want to share some of the feedback I've received from constituents in Jamestown. One unique piece that I'm hoping you guys will discuss amongst yourselves is the idea of expanding the low-speed electric vehicles, essentially golf carts, through the town of Jamestown. Right now, they're allowed on roads up to 35 miles per hour. We do have a few roads that exceed that. And if that's something that the council would like to pursue, if you guys would discuss it amongst yourselves, it's something I can bring to the state and see if there's an appetite to expand that across the town. So that's something that I've received some feedback on throughout the last 6 months to a year. With that, I'll turn it over to my colleagues.
Thank you, Alex.
Alex. Good to see you all. As Alex said, it's always a pleasure to come before you every year. Just as a reminder, procedural note for both the House and the Senate, we're at the point now where we're post-February break. We were all supposed to have our legislation drafted and we have to have all of ours turned into the desk by Tuesday. I know the House has a different rule where they can do late introductions by right of a rule. We don't have that rule on the Senate side. Obviously, if you all are discussing issues here in Jamestown and you have local issues, those are treated differently, so we can always work to get anything in that you all need from us, and we'll obviously work with you all to get that done. I do know that you passed a resolution earlier about tax exemption extension. I put that in as right. Yeah, so they've already passed it, we've introduced it, we're always a little slower in the Senate. So I did put that in as well, so hopefully we'll be able to get that across the finish line sooner rather than later, and I'll keep you all posted as that moves forward. But right now, yeah, we're in the heavy heat of all of our hearings, so follow along on the General Assembly website. We've got the bill tracker. People can either come up and hang out with us at the State House or attend hearings. We'd love to have you, but between now and April break, but really through the end of session, we will be in hearing mode. A couple of bills I wanted to highlight that I'm working on. One, actually, it's got a hearing this week on Wednesday. It's a media literacy bill, especially with the rise of AI, propaganda. I think it's really important that we have a fully integrated media literacy approach. I have the school librarians have reached out to me. I haven't had a chance to connect with them yet. I know they have concerns because it is their responsibility to develop the media literacy curriculum. So I do plan on following up with them, but I do think that that's a really important component of our education. And quite frankly, not just K through 12, really, we as adults need to be doing that too, especially right now, trying to tell the difference between some of these AI fake videos and reality is getting tougher and tougher. So, so that's a bill that I'm really proud of. Healthcare. We all know that that's an issue, the cost, the availability of services. Obviously, there's been a huge campaign in Newport around the birthing center. I know obviously in Jamestown and Newport, we're both older populations, but it is really important to keep that birthing center open. We saw the bridges all got shut down in this last blizzard. What would have happened, right? And really, I do see that campaign as the canary in the coal mine around healthcare services in general. As long as I've been in office, I've been hearing, rumors about services that they've been trying to move away from Newport Hospital, and the more services that get diverted, the harder it is for people to maintain their care, that preventative care that is much better, much healthier for all of us to do than a reactive care system. So Were you gonna add to that? Mary?
No, yeah, no, we got a notice to add, I'm sorry, I was looking for it on my phone, my media literacy, these things. But, to just get a notice from, Mary Love Green about creating a resolution, which hopefully we'll do at our next meeting. So, yeah.
Excellent, yeah, I have two pieces of legislation in around that to basically try to make sure that any cuts in services are actually well founded. I know, by the way, there's been a lot of talks about the declining birth rate in the region, but you know, women and infants can't handle additional births either. So the nurses up at Women and Infants are like, are you crazy? Like, what are you gonna do? Where are the women gonna go if we can't handle more births? So I think there's really a coordinated effort to try to pressure the hospital to keep that service at Newport Hospital. And like Alex, like the word of the day is affordability. Utility bills have actually been at the forefront of that conversation. I'm proud that I have always fought for affordability, as I have fought for renewable energy. I think that there's some misinformation and disinformation out there. I just looked actually while I was sitting there waiting to come up and chat with you. Our renewable energy mix as of about 5 minutes ago, into the region was 5%. 5% renewable energy. So there's kind of an attempt to paint all that ails us around the utility costs as being renewable energy. It's just not supported by facts and information. There's also good legislation that we've passed to actually curb some of the efforts of the utility to kind of pull profit out of the system. But I will say PPL, again, had a record-breaking quarter in Q4 of 2025. So that being said, one of the bills that I have is to basically give Rhode Island Energy a budget. One of the biggest cost drivers is actually deferred maintenance on the systems and the infrastructure. Thanks National Grid. Now it's PPL's problem, it's all of our problems. But you know, we've seen them develop kind of parallel dockets at the Public Utilities Commission and playing a little bit of a game of cups in the alleyway with what the costs and expenses are here. So the bill that I have is really to create a budget cap on it's the infrastructure sustainability reliability docket. And it basically would say, you cannot increase that more than 3%. Because the reality is we all have to live on a budget. And it becomes really challenging for the PUC to say, oh, hey, you know, don't make the improvements to that line, right? And then there's some sort of like reliability problem, right? So the PUC is pretty reluctant once the proposal gets in front of them to start nitpicking away. So that's why putting a budget and saying, look, you're the company, you're responsible for this, but do it within a reasonable budget. So I thought that was a measured way to really look at the problem and try to curb some of those ongoing cost issues. So, and like Alex, there's probably about 100 other things that we're both working on. Happy to answer questions, and you all know how to get a hold of us, and we're happy to put in anything and weigh in on anything else.
Didn't you have one about affordable housing?
Yeah, I'm signed on to a number of bills, and I do have a bill around essentially creating additional funding for affordable housing.
Right, there was one that, I thought there was, but maybe I know there's an additional conveyance tax that
Yes.
some senators are talking about, I mean, I think that's sort of possibly a difficulty, but
Yes.
again, speaking of taxes, the status of the Taylor Swift tax, you know, have you heard any thoughts? I mean, I think this is gonna get so tied up in the legal system.
Yeah, I mean, Alex can jump in if he wants, but I know that we had a call about this not that long ago, and last week, was it just last week? Time is
Particularly last week.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we just had a call about this, and I think, you know, we're trying to get a sense as to when they are gonna be developing rulemaking around eligibility of the fund. And that's, you know, that was what I heard as well, is that people are gearing up to sue over the tax. So, yeah.
Because they officially call the tax up there,
Right.
the State House, they don't call it Taylor Swift tax, really.
It's
The
really,
millionaires have?
That's a different one. No, it's
Oh,
state
okay.
property tax is what it is.
It's just a state.
Yeah, it is technically the name for it. The Department of Revenue is supposed to form rules and regulations around it. There's a tremendous administrative burden to implement the Taylor Swift tax or the state property tax. Right, we don't have a home exemption here. So we don't have exact figures of who qualify for this.
Right.
There's homes in Jamestown that don't have heat, that can't have year-round residents in the winter. So there's
It's
tremendous,
not exactly because it's a hardship for them, but I think but nonetheless, I think Ed, did a terrific job explaining to us this additional burden that's being placed on some, people who've been a long time residents, summer residents of Jamestown are not full-time residents, but the state's going to tax them some additional money on a pretty profound tax.
it's significant tax. And
Yeah.
one of the reasons I push back hard against this tax is because the number one way for Jamestown or towns to have revenue is property tax. And it's essentially taking that ability of the town and taking it from the state or taking from the town and giving it to the state. And I voiced those concerns strongly when it came up last year.
I think it's gonna be a little hard to, we'll give that, we're not giving that up, but I think that it just seems a tremendously ill-founded idea.
So, and I think there are concerns at the state level about the implementation, and it's one of the reasons that when they passed that, when it was put into the budget, that they didn't use it to balance the budget, right? They carved out that money, if it comes to fruition, for the low-income affordable tax credits. So if eventually it does not come to fruition, it would not throw off our budget.
and I think that's actually something that's important to note too, is something that we talked about in the call recently that we had about this, which is, I know that that's one element that's often talked about is like, okay, great, we created this tax, all the money goes upstate. But really making sure that, the rulemaking is followed to make sure that Jamestown can actually access that program and that the rules are drafted in a way that Jamestown can benefit as well.
Thank you. Questions?
No, that was one I had, so.
Okay. There's Mary, anything else?
No, I don't think so. I think some of the affordability, those issues, you've hit them all. When you talk about insurance, I've watched mine double in 3 years. So I think, I guess one other simple question that you can't answer has to do with simply with FEMA and with, the capacity to take care of some of these disastrous storms. And, what will the town, you can't answer that question, that's a federal program, but will it be around and that kind of, and how's the state gonna be prepared to take care of some of this? Sorry, I know you can't answer that.
Well, thank you both for coming out, and extending your long work day, and we always look forward to seeing you and talking to you. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Nice to see everyone.
Thank you. All right, next on our agenda, we have a presentation from the committee chair, Marissa Quinn, for the Fort Denny Ad Hoc Committee. Good evening.
So as we're going to get that started, I just want to thank you for putting together a really great committee. I think we were familiar with each other, most of us, when we started, but we've had this opportunity to work together, and it's a great, interesting, committed group of people that are taking the role really seriously. It's even some fun sometimes too, and some of them are here tonight. Yes, too.
But before you go on, they have a terrific chair.
They do.
You have, I think you've done a really great job of, it's a very volatile topic, as we know, and people care a lot about it, as we know, and they should. And I think you've done a really great job of paying attention to that, and also then integrating the various ideas and managing the meetings very well.
Thank you again, it's been a great group to work with as well. So I'm gonna start with basically the charge that you gave to us, which includes this highlighted area, which is coming to you about 6 months in and reporting on the progress. So, in terms of what you asked us to do, it's really number one, an assessment of kind of the existing assets, they're all listed there, as well as staffing, services, revenue. And then kind of the second portion is to come up with some recommendations about ways that we might consider improving what's there, and then reporting to you. So today I'm just gonna talk a little bit, according to the charge, really just giving you a report on the progress we've made, where we are, and an overview of the survey findings as well. Just get that out there. And this isn't clicking. Oops.
Try to get this.
Okay, thank you.
Towards me, okay.
Okay. So since we first met in August, we've had 12 meetings. 2 of those were site visits, one at Fort Getty and then one at Fisherman's Memorial Park in Narragansett. And we, as you know, developed a survey and distributed it. We brought it here. You reviewed it, approved it, including the distribution plan. And you availed us of Beta, the landscape architect, and we had one workshop with them and are planning another one this week, which is great. It's been really interesting to work with them, so thank you for that. We've approached our work in phases. We wanted to make sure that we were all on the same page in terms of what we know and what we understand the context to be. So the first phase, which we've just included, as I mentioned, site visits, some benchmarking, and member Cassie West has taken it upon herself to really do a deep dive into other sites, and she'll be presenting, she's done some initial presentations on that. At our next meeting Thursday, she's gonna share more of what she's found out. We've heard reports from Ray and others, and thank you, Ray. Ray has been involved in really every aspect of this, as well as Cody Clarkin. Reports on financials, staffing, programming, et cetera. We've also heard related presentations from Jim Hagney on the Harbor Master Plan, as well as from Meg Miles on CISF and what they are planning now and what they're considering in the future. So we thought that was important. And again, we can develop and distribute surveys. We are now in phase 2, and that's really about analyzing and then synthesizing all of this phase 1 work and thinking about how does that inform our principles, our options. And so we're deep into that at the moment. Again, we had one workshop, which was helpful, and I think we'll be digging even more in on this next one, which is scheduled for Thursday. And then finally, we'll take all of that and hopefully smoothly iterate into a set of recommendations that we can all get behind and get to you in our timeline of June. So now I'm gonna just go quickly through. Yeah, did you do that or did I do that?
It's a little bit finicky.
Okay, so first is the resume. We had 2 surveys that we distributed as of December 22nd. They were out for about a month. One was directed at residents, property owners, business owners of Jamestown. And the other, which I'll also mention, was directed to non-resident Fort Getty users. So postcards were sent to, I think, about 5,300 individuals with a QR code that fall into this universe of individuals, invited to come take the survey, and 1,069 individuals responded for about a 20% response rate, which we were happy with. I think it's the highest that Jamestown has had in responses. Basically, who responded? 83% were full-time, year-round residents. 58% have lived in Jamestown for more than 20 years. 80%, and this is very much like your own ad hoc Fort Getty committee, the demographics match. 80% are age 55 or older, and 45% live in town. Others live at Beaverdale, the Dumplings, North End, and Shores. We asked about how often do you go to Fort Getty in off-season and during the season. It's not that different. About 75% of the respondents visit Fort Getty in the summer at least once or twice a month. And it's that same number, about a little bit of a drop off, it's about the same. So it's really a year-round asset. We asked about satisfaction, and in terms of the overall park experience, these were the highly rated, both combination of very satisfied and satisfied. So you can see people are pretty happy for the most part with the overall experience of the park, of the beaches, of hiking. Some of these lower ones, I'm not showing it here, but a lot of them have no opinion. So a lot of people may not be using the fire pit, and a lot of people had no opinion about handicapped accessibility. We thought it was important to ask. We asked them, what prevents you from going to Fort Getty? You were curious, is it because there's a park close to you? So for the most part, people said really nothing is preventing them. These are of responses, so 45% of the 1,500 responses we received for this question said nothing's preventing them. Of the people who indicated they were being prevented by something, these were the top reasons. It's either too crowded, they're not feeling welcome, it's poorly maintained, parking is difficult, or they don't bypass. In terms of improvements, most people think that minor upgrades are needed. 24% of the respondents said substantial improvements, 14% said fine as is, so not really surprising. And the top amenities that are in need of improvement according to the respondents is, number one is restrooms. We probably didn't use it in the survey to figure that out. But here are some others, and I'm glad trash cans is there. That's what I feel strongly about. In terms of future development, we had a whole list of things that were suggested, and it's also an open-ended question, asking what would you like to see more of or improved? And if the ad here is strong, what did I do? Strongly prefer, and some prefer, and nature preserve, community activities, think of passive recreation, open space kind of falling in that area, trail systems. So there's a lot of things people like and that they want to be improved. And then we asked about revenue and about how we currently generate revenue. And so 64% of the respondents indicated that generating revenue through Fort Getty is essential or very important. And these were the responses in terms of how we do it. We asked the question, based on these areas, what do you see as the future in terms of generating revenue through these 3 different areas? And obviously pavilion events is very popular. People would like to either maintain them or expand them. Tent camping, 63% of the respondents, and I think everybody, I think it was 1,066 individuals answered these questions. 63% want to see tent camping maintained, 14% expanded, and then RV camping slightly less, but 54% would like to see RV camping maintained, 10% expand, 12% reduced, and 21% eliminated. One thing that comes through in this survey, in these surveys, is that Fort Getty is more than a campground. People see Fort Getty as a tremendous asset, community asset, community park that has a campground. And yet we spend a lot of time thinking about the RV today, and it's come through this survey certainly, so I thought it would be important to just show the nuances of some of the reasons that people are kind of polarizing around both sides. So in terms of in favor of RV camping, people tend to think of it as mostly revenue generation, but people offer many other reasons why they feel strongly about RVs and camping generally. That's part of the fabric of this community. It's been there for 50+ years. It makes waterfront and more accessible to people that may otherwise be able to do that. It promotes economic and social diversity. Campers are the fabric of this town, as a quote. And similarly, on the other side, it's not just one monolithic sensibility. There's a lot of things that come into play when thinking about what people don't like about the RVs. One is, yes, it's blocking summer access to people that would like it just for residents. But there's other things about the policies that inform how we invite campers to be there for the entire season. So there's a lot, I think, that we can look at in this area. And there's a lot that came through in terms of middle ground that I think is important in our work. This is just a summary of the themes that came through on the nearly 400 open comments. Probably nothing too surprising. I think as polarizing as RVs is dogs. And then in terms of the non-resident survey, 57 individuals responded out of, Ray can remind me how many you sent, 230 about, I think?
No, recall.
Mostly RV campers responded, most of the respondents are there for 6 years or have been going for 6 years or longer. Many do not come back on the off season, but do other things, and it's multi-generational. Again, not a surprise at all, the top things that amenities that were suggested as needing improvement, number one was restrooms. And we neglected to add electric as one of the options, so, but they mentioned it, so, also a top concern. And overall, the HARC assessment is minor upgrades. We've received community input in other ways. People come to the meetings, Cheryl is here tonight, she comes to almost every meeting, and it's great, she gives us feedback, and others do as well. We've received probably 25 to 30 individual pieces of correspondence from people on a range of issues with a wide variety of ideas, some big ideas, some criticisms, some complaints, some concerns, but all very instructive. So this is kind of just my sense of what the, kind of where we are with some preliminary findings as we kind of approach the next phase. First of all, there's a lot of interest in forgetting in the asset, and the amazing, tremendous asset that we have here, and how we can enhance it to continue to offer all of the great things that it already does offer. And to do so while also considering revenue generation, maintaining and expanding the pavilion, continuing to be a campsite, upgrading the resources that are there to make it even better for campers and non-campers, and then addressing things like the historic assets, parking, traffic flow. In terms of opportunities, and this is just a few, I'm sure my colleagues will have others, but I say historic and historic structures for a couple of reasons. One is that you probably heard from the landscape architect that one of his big ahas was that middle section, Fort Tussard, the area, the fort that's right near the bathrooms. That up there, it's just this amazing elevation and viewpoint that very few people ever get access to, so there's a real opportunity there. And just the historic nature of the park, we talked to the Brown Historical Society, and there's never been a full assessment of the historic nature of that, so it's something to think about. And then just things like how things are organized, placement. I'm sure this isn't a surprise to you, you've been thinking about this over time as well, but this is really an opportunity, having Beta work with us to think about these things. And then there are things in the charge that we might not be able to really do much about, like the boat ramp, the dock, but there are limitations because of CRMC, there are limitations because of flood zones, and just land that is available, because so much is surrounded by vegetation. And this is just a Beta map that puts some of that out there. So in terms of next steps, we, based on all of this early work, are revisiting and discussing some of the goals that you outlined, that were outlined in 1994 and 2004. Are they still the right goals? Are they still the right kind of principles to guide our work? And then we'll be exploring opportunities to really address a wide range of things that have come through, not just the surveys, but that has been an informational tool for sure. And then we will be working as a community development group, which finally get your report on time. That's it.
Really great. I mean, just very well prepared and terrific, and indicates all the hard work that you've been doing, really synthesizes. And I know you've all heard all about, I mean, there seem to be an awful lot of statisticians who live in Jamestown in terms of monitoring survey results. It's pretty interesting. But I think this is a great presentation, and hopefully the paper might get it right.
I think it's excellent. A lot of things that I never, in my wildest dreams thought about asking. And you did a great job on this one.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Any questions about anything?
No.
Great.
No, I appreciate it. Keep up the good work. Thank you. Okay, Next, we have, a proclamation, would you like to read it?
Sure.
Since,
So this is a proclamation of the town council to thank you, town employees of Jamestown. And when you live on an island, even one connected to other places by 2 bridges, you learn to be prepared. When you live in a place where the wonders of nature are so present, said Forgetty, you learn that even being prepared may not account for nature's purity, and that reliability is a virtue often underestimated. When you live in a small town, you learn the virtues of a community often appear in the worst of times. When strangers become friends, saviors appear with a shovel or a plow, and angels with a lamp and a blanket. When you live on Connecticut Island in the town known as Jamestown, you learn that all these things are true. And you also learn that your town employs people who may receive their paychecks from the town of Jamestown, but who really work for you. You realize they don't just do their jobs, they go above and beyond to be ready and prepared, to remain steady in a crisis, and to get out there and help, though the temperature is still freezing, the snow is still falling, and the wind is still howling. I'm looking at you, Mr. Brett. The Town Council of Jamestown wishes to thank the residents of Jamestown for their patience, perseverance, and kindness throughout not just this snowstorm, but the 2 that came before it and the freezing cold that came between. And the Town Council of Jamestown wishes to express its deepest gratitude to all of the employees and volunteers of the town of Jamestown who answered the call. All hands on deck. From the town and school administrators and department heads, and I'm looking at you, Mr. Mello, department heads, and including our emergency first responders and fire department volunteers, and you, Mr. Texera, members of our police department, parks and recreation department, and our water and sewer departments, the school's facilities and maintenance crew and bus drivers, and even our town librarians, and especially those warriors of the roadways, the members of our Department of Public Works. Your efforts went above and beyond any and all expectation. And while we know that there is still more to do in response to this historic storm, you succeeded in subduing Snowmageddon and returning us to some semblance of normal. We remind everyone that patience is a virtue, and we thank you from the bottom of our hearts. And thank you very much. I think we'll move this proclamation.
second, all in favor? Thank you, Mary. All right, I will entertain a motion to, convene as the Alcohol Beverage Licensing Board.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We have an applicant for a Class F nonprofit, Out of the Box Studio Gallery, 11 Clinton Avenue. This is for a 1-day license on March 12th, 2026.
Move to approve.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay, let's see. Guess we have to, yeah, that's it, okay, and then the next one is again, a Class F nonprofit, and the applicant is Jamestown Arts Center, 18 Valley Street. This is for a 1-day license on March 14th, 2026.
Move to approve.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. I guess we have to,
Adjourn. Oh, it's not on here till then. I think the Class F.
okay.
Right.
All right, so then I will entertain a motion to adjourn, sitting as the Alcohol Beverage Licensing Board.
So moved.
All in favor? Thank you. Next, we have the town administrator's report.
Thank you, Madam President. A number of items to report on. First is the grant that has been awarded for the construction of the fire station in North End. So the chief had worked with the congressional delegation to pursue a congressional appropriations grant and was awarded $248,000, which would be directly funded through the USDA. So I know that was reported in the media last week. I just want to be clear that we're still working at vetting potential sites for that. There's no determined site. We still have work to do. The funding is available. We do have a little bit of a time crunch in terms of we have to get an application into USDA in order for them to secure those funds to make sure that they're not reallocated to another project or taken back by the Treasury Department. So we're still working at that, and we'll report back on that shortly. The next item is short-term rentals. We are working with the staff to develop, going through the ordinance. I know there's been discussion at the council level. As you know, there's also the committee that's working through the General Assembly to develop a policy or recommendations which may result in a change in the law, as well as a number of cases are making their way through the courts. But regardless of that, Mary has asked for us to come back with maybe a summary of things to consider by the council if you so choose. We're continuing to work at that with both the zoning official, the solicitor, the clerk, and others within the staff to kind of summarize where we are. Next, I just wanted to provide an update related to the storm, and I know there was a proclamation. I'm certain that the staff greatly appreciates that. I did want to kind of just provide a recap because a lot of times people in the community, when you're home, it's difficult to appreciate the effects of the storm. When you're out in the storm event, as much as I enjoy them, I truly do. There's something about the power of Mother Nature to have the ability and opportunity to be out in them. I can't say everybody agrees with that, but I happen to enjoy it. It was only a week ago, and as a reminder, in 1978, the state of Rhode Island was basically crippled for more than 2 weeks. So if you look at where we are today versus where we were in 1978, 1 week later, it's almost, I hate to say it, but it's almost as people in our community that are fortunate enough to be able to almost forget about that storm and the impact it had. But it was Sunday night, the snow had arrived later than we expected and planned on having. But the DPW crews and all emergency staff were mobilized fully going into that evening. As most of you might realize, the real storm is in the morning, 7 a.m. to about 3 p.m. on Monday, where we were realizing 2 or 3 inches of snow per hour. There was actually a period of time where Mike had to pull some of the trucks off the road just because it was self-defeating. Trucks were getting stuck. It really became hazardous for a period of time there. I will tell you that it was the efforts that happened probably in the hours leading up till, say, 11 a.m., 12 o'clock, in terms of the plow operators being out and keeping up with the snow, that put us in our best position going forward. There were a lot of communities who didn't engage in that method, and it really left them challenged because by the time they put trucks back on the road, they had 30 inches of snow. So it's really a credit to the effort and the kind of the endurance and the persistence by the staff to get out there and get that done. On Monday, we also realized a power outage about the half of the island, the south end of the island. Was about 18 homes without power. This also meant critical infrastructure was without power. The town hall, the police station, fire station, Pemberton, water, sewer were all without power. So this wreaks havoc on the infrastructure, as you might imagine. It's a draw on resources as well. The example that I give, for Rhode Island Energy to come in. Now, this was, to a lot of people's credit that I'll talk about, this was a result of equipment failure, not a catastrophic event. It was not trees down, it was not poles down, but the effort that has to happen for Rhode Island Energy to respond to substations and switching stations, all of that, they can no longer do that independently because of the amount of snow that we were experiencing. So a lot of time it took the resources off the roadways to be able to get them to their various substations. Based upon that, knowing that power was out going into the evening, the police chief opened the shelter at 7 o'clock. Again, a lot of resources that go into that. There's 25 inches of snow in the parking lot at the school. The generator is buried. There's a lot of effort that has to happen to stand up that shelter. A number of messages were sent out via social media, Code Red. We did have power restored at 4 a.m. in the morning, where nearly everything was back online in terms of power. Crews continued to plow throughout Tuesday afternoon. By Tuesday afternoon, virtually all road, with a few exceptions, were open to at least one lane of travel. And some of the things that individual snowplow operators dealt with were snow drifts. When you think about 30 inches of snow, that's a lot of snow. If you think about some areas that you're dealing with, 4 or 5 feet of snow drifts, where our largest plows were not able to get through that. So we, at points where the staff was moving from plowing to moving snow, physically had to move snow with loaders, backhoes. We did bring in some contractors to help us. So as you know, the school and town buildings were closed Monday and Tuesday. The school remained closed Wednesday and Thursday. The school reopened on Friday. Again, tremendous effort to get the school open. literally buried. If you saw pictures of both schools, they were buried in snow. That's DPW staff that makes that happen to open that, along with the school staff who are out on the street with snow blowers and shovels to make those as safe as they can be. We did institute a one-way traffic pattern around the schools going into Friday. That was because of that, we acknowledged that the roads were still narrow, parking is a challenge, we were trying to create parking opportunities there, as well as a flow of traffic that would work well. Reportedly, both today and Friday, it has worked well. We did realize one minor accident. I really commend the residents, in terms of their cooperation going into the storm, in that there were no tickets issued related to the parking ban, there were no cars that were necessary to be towed. During this storm event, so in about a 24-hour, 30-hour period, fire and EMS responded to 19 calls, right? Again, that's a significant amount of calls in that brief period of time. Every call is a challenge. Every call is a truck getting stuck. Sometimes DPW having to come plow them. But they got out and they got those calls answered and probably helped a tremendous amount of people that were experiencing potentially life-threatening conditions in terms of carbon monoxide issues, vents being blocked, all of those things likely prevented really catastrophic issues from occurring. I know there's a big question about where we are in overtime, so just in perspective, it runs us about $800 to $900, maybe $1,000 per hour when we bring the staff in on overtime. That's fuel, that's sand, that's overtime costs. So we're still working at calculating that. I mean, we're not looking at a knee-jerk reaction. We do have other overtime provisions within the DPW contract, a budget that allows for that. So I'm not concerned about that. This is hopefully a once in a maybe 50-year event. I also want to talk about reimbursement from FEMA. You mentioned FEMA reimbursement. So there is a process that we're going through. The process in terms of FEMA is the first step is the state needs to submit a preliminary determination related to damages and costs. Most of our cost is related to equipment and staff. That's across the state. If it meets a threshold and there is a declaration, then there is a potential that there would be a reimbursement of our out-of-pocket cost for up to 75%. That's yet to be determined. We have a long way to go before that happens. We have not yet calculated our overtime costs, our equipment costs. We're still working at just really getting caught up. It's only been a week. A lot of the things I think led to I'll call it the success of Jamestown. When you look at the media, there's a lot of communities that are still struggling to get unburied. A lot of it, I believe, has to do with the resident cooperation, right? Staying off the streets when we ask them to, the parking restrictions when we ask them to, the tree trimming that happens. Mike and his crew, along with the tree warden, have I wouldn't say aggressive, but have a pretty responsible program in looking at trees that become hazardous. The same working with Rhode Island Energy to trim trees that would likely have led to wires down, poles down, which would have been power outage for much longer than what we experienced. The communication between department and cooperation between departments, whether it's a plow truck needed for EMS or a plow truck needed for Rhode Island Energy, was really remarkable. The equipment investment. So you saw a lot of communities that were struggling to keep up. A lot of it had to do with their equipment, right? They've either got laxed in terms of their investment in equipment, they had older equipment. Up until I think about Tuesday, 100% of our equipment was up and running. We lost one truck at one point. Our oldest truck in the fleet, programmed to be replaced soon. But other than that, it was typical. We had occasional flat tire, we had a belt loss, we had a sander that went out of service. But by and large, our equipment and the investment in our equipment really paid off to providing the best response that we could. We have more work to do, right? So we're going to take this opportunity. There's some lessons that we learned through the process, things that we think we could improve upon next time. We did have a lot of things. It's like a game of dominoes. We were very fortunate that we didn't have a number of dominoes fall. If we did at one given time, we probably would have had a different result of where we were. At the end of the day, I really need to commend all of the staff, from volunteers at the fire department to firefighters that ran to EMS staff to police officers. A lot of these people left their house Sunday and didn't go back till Tuesday. they either slept somewhere or worked through the storm or whatever it was. Public Works, I know I'm gonna miss someone, but regardless, the entire town staff, Public Works, water sewer, guys that typically weren't in trucks were in trucks. So it is by and large the commitment of the staff that really put us in a better place than most communities. We were at a point now, if you have watched the news, everybody's making a lot of discussion about bringing in resources from Connecticut, Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont. We were offered that opportunity. We did request some resources early on, but by the time those resources became available Thursday into Friday, our own staff was in such a great place in terms of clearing the roads. I didn't really see that it would be useful to bring those resources in. And candidly, when other communities still hadn't touched a road, I felt it more appropriate that they allocate those resources to them. So again, I go back to everybody, all hands on deck, as you said earlier, was really I think the result of what you saw as a community, so.
I just wanna say thank you to our town administrator as well, because he was out there helping as well, so. Thank you.
Sure.
All hands on deck.
And the term all hands on deck came from you, so, so I mean, I think it is absolutely important, and I'm sure that everybody probably would have preferred, more baked goods than they did a proclamation, but we'll work on that one too. And I think,
I'd say it's.
yeah, so anyway, yeah. Anyway, but just a terrific job. I mean, I just think, and the things, the praise on Facebook of all places and stuff like
No,
that.
it was,
just amazing.
it was amazing and encouraging
Yeah,
and
kind.
kind, absolutely. And there was one or two, and there were, no, I know, but the rest of the community, I think, really put the kind words on that pretty darn quick, so reminded them what they did. Thank you, sorry.
Yeah, so I just want to follow up, there's still work to do, right? So as we have experienced in most storms, there are challenges related to like clearing the avenue, for example. We go down our list of priorities, not that the business community is not a priority, but our priorities have been opening up critical infrastructure, getting the schools open last week. Keeping in mind, these guys got to rest too. It's tough to recover from a 30-hour shift. It takes a lot to recover. With that being said, we know there's more work to do. We're optimistic and going to take advantage of the rain and the warmer weather in the next couple of days to try to minimize that. But we know there's more to get done in terms of the avenue and clearing the business district, and we'll commit some resources to that as soon as we can get that done. So if there's nothing else, I'll jump into the highly anticipated budget. So I presented your binders to you tonight. And I'd like to spend, a few minutes just going over the highlights of the budget and where we are in terms of the budget process. I know there's going to be a lot of discussion about scheduling workshops and deadlines. Keeping in mind, April 20th would be your deadline for the council to adopt the budget in order to allow us to prepare the proper advertisement, prepare ourselves for the financial town meeting in June. So as required, we presented the budget to you tonight for the fiscal year 26-27. It does include the continuation of municipal services to support our facilities and the infrastructure for the Jamestown residents. So with a few exceptions, it is a maintenance budget that maintains the same level of services that we provide to our residents. I'll go through a couple of the highlights of where we are in terms of the budget. So in road paving, the budget that I proposed includes a capital budget of $400,000 for road paving. So this allows us to combine it with an additional $115,000 of state funds, which will allow us to continue paving of over 2 miles of roadway on our scheduled pavement management program. So we do have a program. A lot of people ask, when is my road going to get paved? There is a schedule of pavement, and based upon an assessment of road conditions, we follow that program. The fire and EMS staffing. So there continues to be an increase in this particular area to support the per diem ALS and BLS program. There's a 35% increase in this model. This is the model right now that works, balancing the needs of the community for EMS staff, along with a declining number of volunteers in that division. So The staff is, I would say, very efficient in terms of the way that that particular program is staffed, but it does require an increase in support. In the area of cybersecurity, the operating budget continues to invest in the cybersecurity enhancements, in our firewall protection, and implementing a two-factor authentication system. Why? In affordable housing, the capital budget includes an additional $100,000 to be added to the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. That brings that total trust fund to $942,000. There was also a previously approved use of an additional $400,000 in reserve funds that will bring the total available funds for affordable housing initiatives to $1.3 million. Eldred Avenue, just as a reminder, we invest about $25,000 annually into the turf maintenance program at Eldred Avenue. The proposed budget includes an additional $15,000, which will allow us to determine soil conditions at the field to see what will be the next steps in terms of improving or continuing to improve the turf conditions there, which may include drainage or irrigation solutions. A lot to be vetted there, a lot of work to do there. I've also included an additional $30,000. There's been discussion of the request for fencing along the east side of the soccer field. The ad hoc committee had suggested an option in lieu of fencing, begin planting arborvitae trees along the east side of the property. Vaughan Avenue Fields. So over the past 2 years, the rec department has committed staff and materials in about a $12,000 cost for the improvement of the various ball fields there, mostly baseball and the Little League field. The baseball field is used by the middle school. That included infield mix and the beginning of repairs to the concession stand. The proposed budget includes an additional $12,500 in operating budget to begin a turf maintenance program similar to what we do at Eldred Avenue on the soccer field to see if we can improve the turf conditions there, absent any irrigation or any additional work there. It also includes an additional $35,000 in capital funds for the replacement of approximately 600 linear feet of fencing around the soccer field. In the same area, Lawn Avenue tennis courts and basketball courts. So there's 2 tennis courts there, 1 basketball court and skate park. There's a proposed capital budget that includes $300,000 for the combined court repairs and maintenance. So in the past, we've been very granular about how we're spending those monies, upper court, lower court, basketball court. What I'm proposing is a $300,000 budget that will allow us to best capitalize and best determine how we could best use those dollars to improve those courts. To put it in perspective, and we need to set expectations about what we're going to bring those courts to. Put it in perspective, a neighboring community is looking at a complete rebuild that is down to gravel, rebuilding 3 tennis courts, right? We have 6, they're rebuilding 3. The cost of that program is $450,000. That's a complete down to gravel rebuild up. I don't think that's in our budget. And again, it goes back to setting expectations of what is the level quality court that you want here. I feel like we can provide something of high quality for $300,000. Also new this year is a composting pilot program. So the operating budget includes an amount of $6,700, which will allow up to 400 property owners to participate in curbside pickup of food scraps. So this funds about 20% of what is the grant match. Would be for a 3-month period that would not start until April 1st, 2027. A couple of reasons that we're pushing that out for that period of time. Mostly because we have not secured the other 80% funding formula. Part of that is proposed to be funded by the residents. Part is through grant funding. So there's still work to do there. By the time we got through that process and launched that, it will be April 2027. In drainage projects, the DPW requested capital budget of $200,000 for various projects, including drainage, sidewalk repair, and road striping. Your current fiscal year budget includes $75,000, which is work underway related to the engineering for Clark's Village and Great Bell Road neighborhoods. A portion of the proposed budget for next year would be committed to the continuation of that work there. We do expect that to be a multi-year project, phased project in terms of trying to improve the drainage within that neighborhood. Moving on to the next page, the number everybody's been waiting for is the proposed budget overview. So our operating budget is proposed, on the town side, is proposed at $13,580,058. That's a 4.1% increase. The town capital budget as proposed is $1,385,900. That's a 44.14% increase. I know that causes a reaction, but when you look at the budget, that's where the capital investment I feel needs to have from the priorities I hear from the council in terms of recreational facilities and our infrastructure. We're able to invest in that area pretty heavily this year. And then the town school budget as proposed is $17,150,225 at a 1.87% increase. Total budget, which includes school, town capital, and school budget, town operating budget is $32,116,183, an increase of 4.13 over the current year budget. The next gives you a summary based upon various areas within the department and a breakdown in the differences from year to year. What drives the budget? In terms of expense, employee compensation, largest asset we have is our employees, our staff, right? Most valuable part of what we do here. So the town has 3 unions, the 868, which are our clerks and dispatchers, the 869, which is our public works, water and sewer guys. Not that that's part of the budget, but they're in the same kind of union, and the IBPO. So the 868 and 869 both have contracts, which are current, so it's easy for us to predict and budget for those. The IBPO contract ends in June of this year, so we are beginning negotiations on that. These contracts do not set compensation for department heads and non-union personnel. However, I'm recommending that the budget allow for an increase of 3% for department heads and non-union personnel. Healthcare benefits. The town has been advised by the Rhode Island Trust, who we partnered with to purchase our healthcare, an additional increase of approximately 10% health and dental care. This results in an increase of approximately $79,450 just to our operating budget, an increase of $79,450 just to cover healthcare increases. So we will continue to lock in those rates as we get into late March in terms of what our actual healthcare costs are. Same thing for the Rhode Island Trust on our general liability insurance. Beginning this year, the trust has been able to prorate our liability costs across the various town departments. Before this year, years previous, it's been a general liability loan. So this will allow us to transition over a number of years to a method that will allow us to accurately account for the expenses related to each function of the town. The proposed budget increases an additional $27,500 for the overall expected increase in cost of the liability insurance. The employee retirement system, this remains fairly stable. And the employees that are in the MERS system, the municipal retirement system, they contribute anywhere between 7 to 9.25% of their salary, depending on the number of years that they've been in employment. There's also a report, an actuarial that's provided by the State Retirement Board. There's actually a slight decrease from 11.5% of payroll to 11.3% of payroll. So I put a footnote there. You think there's a savings there. It's a payroll that is increasing. So there's not a savings there. It's just our contribution percentage goes down. The town police pension plan, this is a private plan that's administered locally by the board, that's made up of myself, the finance director, police union representative, and an appointee by the council. The police officers contribute 9% through the payroll deductions, and we rely on the actuarial of the town's obligation to maintain this funding, and that is level funded this year. As I indicated earlier, the capital budget, the current capital budget for the current fiscal year is $961,500. In developing the budget, we received requests from department heads in excess of $3.5 million of capital requests. I'm proposing a capital budget of $1,385,900. Again, when you look through that, most of that is maintenance. There's really no new initiatives there. It is maintenance, drainage, road paving, and fixing our recreational facilities. What was included in that $3.5 million was the request for $1.8 million to fund the replacement of the ladder truck. I am recommending that the council consider this a bond initiative to be presented at the FTM. This will replace the 2001 ladder truck. It is necessary at this time to make that commitment. The delivery time on that truck is 3 to 3.5 years from the time that we have funding authorized to the time we place the order to the time we would expect to. Based upon that timeline, that vehicle would be somewhere around 28 or 29 years old at the time it's replaced. When we talk about revenue, so as you know, the majority of our revenue comes from property tax, somewhere in the area of 82% of our entire budget comes from property tax. So we are capped at the 4% levy, so our maximum increase based upon the state certified levy from the current fiscal year is $1,018,676.28. So the 4%, right? So we're still setting the tax base, right? So we're still going through that analysis in the tax assessor's office. We're not in a reassessment year, so we don't expect much movement there. There has been some growth in terms of construction, improvement, those types of things. Not a significant amount, but there are some other impacts that I'm talking about. We also budgeted anticipated state revenues in the amount of $1,982,494. This includes state aid for both schools and other town reimbursements. So that's about 6.2% of your proposed budget. And then there's other local revenues. There are additional state reimbursements that we count in this, as well as local revenue fees, fines, those types of things that we collect at $3,792,285. And that represents about 11.8% of the proposed budget. So some of the impacts in terms of the tax levy, tax abatements, in terms of how that's going to settle in on a tax rate. So this current fiscal year, the town realized a full adjustment for the tax abatement that's been offered to the fire and EMS members, right? At $70,000 net loss in property tax revenue. That's a benefit that's offered to volunteers based upon basically a prorated system. Certainly a great value considering what we get in terms of the volunteer service on both fire and EMS. Also this year, we're going to realize that, I mentioned this in the previous meeting, that as a result of changing the law, we'll be making an assessed value change to 16 properties, which are deed restricted as low to moderate income. Those property owners will realize some tax savings. There's a net loss to our tax revenue, which we estimate at $30,000. Again, that will impact our tax levy, tax rate across the board. This, I've alerted to you previously, is related to the state property tax you mentioned earlier this evening with the members of the General Assembly. This is just information. This has no impact on your budget, no impact on your tax rate. This is just information related to how it impacts some property owners here in Jamestown. So it is anticipated, and the Department of Revenue is working towards implementation of July 1, 2026. And I know there was discussion about developing rules. They have indicated, Department of Revenue have indicated that they intend on submitting or generating tax bills in July of 2026. Whether that actually happens or not through the promulgation of rules and regulations, I don't know that, but they are preparing to do that. The state property tax will impact people who are not a full-time resident and their home is not rented for more than 183 days per year. I've received conflicting information whether that includes short-term rentals or whether they have to be long-term rentals or not. Not certain of that, not clear. So after the first $1 million, you are taxed at a state property tax of $5 per thousand in excess of that. So our early estimates, based upon what we know, we made a lot of assumptions related to voter registration rules, properties that we know. We estimate that there'll be an additional tax burden to some of those property owners, $3.7 billion additional tax. So as I do every year, it's a learning process for me. Tina educated me yet again today at 4:30 about some calculations, and it is always really comforting to me, not only as a resident and taxpayer, but certainly in my role that Tina is in her role. We are very grateful and very fortunate to have her in that role. And I gratefully appreciate her guidance and the effort that she puts into developing the budget. It's got my name on the front of it, but the reality is it's a coordinated effort of the staff, the department heads, and the work of the finance director that really results in this. So I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. I know that we have a lot of work to do in terms of workshops, through the budget, but that is the basic highlights of the budget that I present to you tonight.
Oh, I just, thank you. I mean, it seems very complete. I think highlights are great, and I also want to share my thanks to the presence of Tina Collins as we make these budgets, as we make some of these decisions. It's just great. Thank you.
Yes. I agree with everything Mary just said about that. Yeah. Sounds good, okay, thank you. Thank you, okay. Okay, we have no unfinished business. Under the new business, we have,
Last thing on your report, I do want to congratulate the fire chief on getting $250,000 in a grant from the federal government. And we certainly hope they follow through, but congratulations, on that. It's really terrific.
okay, so next we have under new business, proposed workshops, session dates, budget workshop. So what do we have those set in stone now, or?
That's up to you.
Okay, I didn't know.
Right now, we have a quorum on the tenth, the eleventh, and the, we have a quorum for the 4 dates proposed,
Okay,
because 3 of you will be available. I haven't got 100% confirmation yet from counselors, Brian and Ross.
And we should note that Councilor Brian is back on active duty today,
and,
or
yeah.
when I'm on active duty, so he is, we don't know quite where he's going, do we?
no,
Yeah, so,
we just know that he's, you know.
If I could just a point of clarification here. So Councilor Brian did, I'm not sure if he communicated with the council entirely, so he did communicate with Roberta and I that, based upon what Mary's alluded to, he's really questionable in terms of his schedule for at least the next few weeks, based upon his commitment to the military. So just take that as you will, as you're trying to plan meetings.
Yeah, we understand, we're thinking about it as well, and for his safety. Thank you. Okay, so do we have to vote for these then? Should we vote on these dates? Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
I would move to approve these dates of Tuesday, March 10th for the operational and capital budget, Wednesday, March 11th, the possible needed for the capital budget, Thursday, March 12th for the school, joint school and town budget.
Excuse me, I'm sorry, Mary. One thing we did find out is unfortunately the 12th does not work for the school committee.
Okay.
So that, it's a Thursday. Should work. It should, but one of their key members is not available on the 12th.
Okay.
So it may be the 26th.
Okay.
The 26th. Okay. If we could just tentatively schedule for the 26th.
Okay. So what you said. Okay. And so I guess that would probably put the March 16th meeting, I mean, as any kind of wrap up, we'd probably need to wait till after the 26th. Is that true? I think, so, hopefully by, long before the 26th, Councilor Brian will be back. But those would be, and then those would be the dates that I think we can work with, that we have a quorum.
You want to second that? Second. All in favor? Aye, thank you. Okay, the next item is, potential, bond questions and budget approval timeline requirements. So, we have April 1st, 2026 is the deadline to submit potential town council bond questions for the November 2026 general election ballot. And the other timeline is April 20th, 2026, and this is for budget approval for the financial town meeting.
So are those are just advisory, right? I mean,
Yeah,
we don't.
have to
they're not
take any action
scheduled.
on that.
Right.
All right, next we have, item C is the community septic loan program. Did you wanna address that?
I can cover
Thank
it.
you.
So this is a program that the town has participated in over a number of years. I think this is the third round. So the program has changed a little bit in terms of the responsibility. So the program used to fall under DEM, it's now under the Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank. Essentially, what the infrastructure bank in partnership with the town does is they offer up to $500,000 in loans with a cap of $40,000 per property owner for the replacement of a failing septic system. So it's a low interest loan that the property owner applies to the infrastructure bank for up to $40,000 reimbursement, right? So they have to engineer it, install it, and then seek reimbursement. Essentially, what this does is allows for the town to back the loan. So if someone defaults, the infrastructure bank would like the guarantee from the town that we are going to repay the loan. It's very low risk for a couple of reasons. One is we have leverage in terms of there's a lien attached to every property. So this is in line with what we have done in the past. For the previous 2 rounds that we've done, we are asking that there is an increase in the amount previous years had been $300,000 with a cap of $25,000 per loan. The ask is that there be up to $500,000 available total for Jamestown residents with a $40,000 per household cap. So if the council agrees, we need to just clean up the resolution and the loan document. I call it a loan document. We are not lending anybody any money. It's just not giving the infrastructure bank money. It's their money.
Is this an enterprise account that's listed? I was looking at the enterprise accounts in the town audit, and I know that it's water, sewer, harbor, and then there's something about septic or,
Right,
Or
but
the-
that's the maintenance of the program.
okay,
It's money, $20 per household for the residents on the north end, and then we allocate some of those funds for the environmental scientists.
Gotcha.
Lambert for her salary, some software and things like that for tracking purposes.
okay, thank you. What do you need us to do on this?
Approve the resolution.
The 2 resolutions,
So, living on the north end, I think there's this program.
Yep.
It's fantastic.
Yeah,
I
no,
mean,
it
definitely, if your septic fails and it's financially a massive burden.
it is, I mean,
It's
it
great, that's great.
costs so much these days, and it's just, there's no simple system anymore.
So there's actually, I'm sorry, Mr. President, there's actually 2
Sure,
resolutions,
right.
separate resolutions.
Can we vote on them together, Peter, or do it separately? Okay, all right. I'll entertain a motion,
I would approve, first of all, we might waive the reading of both resolutions from, community septic, system loan. I make a motion to waive the readings of these 2 resolutions.
Second,
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you.
And then I'd make a motion to approve first the community septic system loan program resolution number 2026-04.
second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you.
And now I make a motion to approve resolution number 2026-05, authorizing the town to enter into a loan agreement with the Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank for the community septic system loan program and to issue a $500,000 note therefore.
second,
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, item D is something that, is on the agenda at your request, so would you like to address that?
I think, actually, because of the length of the meeting, I may postpone this a little bit, but just, it has to do with, the, basically as a result of the community plan, there are changes to be made to the zoning code, and I didn't know what the time frame was for those. There are also changes that I think might be warranted that were not necessarily presented, and, so I'd like to make a proposal to do some of that. But again, it's just, I'm really kind of looking for the time frame for those changes. I guess what I'm really looking for in all of the efforts, both in short-term rentals and stuff like that, is to just expedite the completion of things, of initiatives that we've had for a while. And so just trying to get things done. So, that's really a desire to just know what that time frame is. And I realize it's a little early to be asking our new planner just what that time frame is, so.
Want to hold on, no
Yeah.
action taken?
Exactly.
Okay. Mary, that brings us to ordinances, appointments, vacancies, and expiring terms. There are 3 member vacancies, for the Jamestown 250th Ad Hoc Commission. We have interviewed 2 interested applicants.
I think I would like to appoint both Mr. Rushido and Mr. Cofone. That doesn't necessarily eliminate Mr. Rushido from his other thing that he applied for. But I think they both expressed, Mr. Rushido, I guess, was a history teacher, and Mr. Cofone's interest in history were great, and I think the committee, nobody should turn down an interested volunteer, so, I would nominate both of them for the 250th ad hoc commission.
Mary?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, both very different from each other, so good to.
Understand, so you want to make a motion, or
Sure.
is that the motion?
Oh, do I need to do them separately?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, Peter. Appoint Stephen Rushido to the 250th, motion to appoint Stephen Rushido to the 250th ad hoc commission.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you.
And a motion to appoint Joseph Cofone to the 250th ad hoc commission.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. And next on the agenda was the Harbor Management Commission, but because we can't vote on this tonight because Mary would have to recuse if we don't have a quorum, so put that off to another agenda. Planning Commission, I think that's the Planning Commission, we have a 2-member vacancy with a 4-year term ending December 31st, 2029.
So Madam Chair, I've struggled with this for quite some time, and I know I suspect others have, because I really appreciate the effort that Mr. Cochran and Mr. Pfeiffer have put in. They've, I think if I had, I'm not sure I appointed Mick initially, I'm sort of so long on this board, but I certainly have reappointed him, and I've reappointed Bernie. And they've taken us through 2 comprehensive plans, which are every 10 years. And then and I appreciate that they want to serve again, but I think it's time to bring in new people. And I think it's time for a new generation, I sound like John F. Kennedy, to start, which shows you how old I am, to start to take on these roles and learn these tasks. And so I was very impressed with Christine Gentry, so I'd like to appoint her to one of the positions, to one of the planning position, one of the openings. And so I make a motion to appoint Christine Gentry to planning.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And then what I would do, because I can't choose between these other 2 fellows, and I also do seriously think that it's important, I'd like to advertise for the planning opening again. Just to hope, in our hopes that we'll get some more applications.
Okay.
Roberta's looking at.
She's looking at it.
Kathy said-
I'm just wondering, as far as Mick and Ernie are concerned, am I notifying them?
Well, I'm not prepared to reappoint them, so maybe someone else is, but.
Plus, always a by, those 2 are current members, and because there are 2 vacancies, when you fill one, you have to announce which one's the holdover and which one's not being reappointed. So you have to pick.
Okay, Mick was appointed in 2012, and Bernie was appointed in 2014, so I'm just giving you some background.
No, I saw that too, so, I really don't know who to,
You go, if you wanna wait, so you think about it. Like to wait, you would think about it, but what they would have to do is say, I want to appoint X to replace Y. And that's what you have to.
I understand.
Yep, I do too.
So we don't appoint tonight then?
I,
You wanna hold off on that?
I do, I guess what I'd like to do, however, can we continue, can we re-advertise? Yeah, so I guess what I would like to do is to. Showing, I hope not seen as a sign of disrespect to these 2 gentlemen who've worked so hard for Jamestown, but I just would like maybe to re-advertise. But, and if we find ourselves with some. What?
I feel like we drag this out for.
Yeah, I know. So, well, okay, so then let me appoint Christine Gentry, in the position that, was held by Mick Cochran.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Mary, I know that was.
Yeah, and then I'm gonna hold on reappointing Mr. Pfeiffer.
He'll continue to serve as a holdover until you make a decision.
Do we have to vote on holding them over? No. Just like that. All right, thank you. Let's see, what we have, that tax abatement, tax assessment board of review. We have one alternate member vacancy with a 3-year term ending May 31st, 2028. We have one interested applicant, Mr.
Ruscido.
Ruscido.
Yeah.
Okay,
And I would appoint, I would move to appoint Mr. Ruscido to the tax assessment board of review as an alternate member.
A second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Zoning board of review, we have one, and this is where it gets a little tricky. One full member vacancy with a 5-year term ending December 31st, 2030. And 3 alternate member vacancies with a 1-year term ending December 31st, 2026.
I think more than one of the alternates has requested to be appointed to a full member, and so I would recommend that we appoint Lisa Lepore to the full member vacancy that exists.
A second.
I think she brings she's a civil engineer and will bring a skill set and experience that would be welcome on that board.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, so that's our full member. First alternate, second alternate, third alternate.
I think I would appoint John Chicarchi to be I believe he's the first alternate, is that true?
He is the first, in that order they are.
To reappoint him to be first alternate.
So John Chicarchi is first,
Yep.
then Robert
Well,
Messini,
And then Robert Messini,
then we need a third.
third. Well, we just appointed Ms. Gentry to the planning commission. I think that's enough work for, so, and I think, Mr. King wanted to be a full member, as I recall, so, can we re-advertise for that third alternate position? Sure. Great. I think we need to vote on
We do need to vote on that, we voted, yeah, we need to vote on the first, second.
first and second alternates. So John Chicarchi is the first alternate, Robert Messini is the second.
Okay, we need to do them separately.
You could, yes.
Okay, so, you're making a motion for John
John
Chicarchi
Chicarchi is.
for first alternate, okay,
A second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. And then Robert Messini, for second alternate.
So moved. Second.
One second.
Second.
Oh, okay, all in favor? Aye, no, aye,
I'm sorry.
whatever. Okay, that's after that. That brings us to the, consent agenda.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
And then we have
Yep.
I was gonna say, you should announce that there is now an opening, vacancy in the third alternate position, that's what you're at.
Yes, exactly.
Because of the opening.
Okay. So there's.
Can you just announce?
Yeah,
What he said.
I think we just did.
Okay, consent agenda, Mary, you made a motion to
To
accept the consent, okay,
To approve the consent agenda.
Second.
all in favor? Aye. All right, the council acknowledges communications, and I will then ask if anybody would like to speak at our second open forum. Seeing as everyone wants to come home, I will entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Again, thank you all for coming out tonight. Everybody out there.
So we're good.
Yeah.
Yeah.